the problem is if somebody is investing in real estate without an entity, they have unlimited personal liability. And think about that for a minute. That means they could take literally everything you have. So that's a risk that nobody should ever take. And so always use some kind of an entity. And of course, the particular entity is what we would have to determine is right for you in your particular situation.
Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Jamel Gibbs, your family-oriented entrepreneur. Welcome to another podcast episode. This is the Business and Investing Podcast, where you learn all things business and investing related. So today we're going to talk about a topic that people need to know in order to protect themselves or at least have some sort of privacy when you're investing in real estate. Now, I'll tell you this, I've done some business with our special guest today. He's actually the one who sets up all of my LLCs and land trusts and things like that. And this is exactly why I wanted to introduce you to him, because he's the best in the business by far. Okay. Another thing I wanted to mention is when you're buying assets, let's say rental properties, you want to consider what we're talking about today to have a level of protection, to have a level of privacy for yourself in order to sleep comfortably at night, knowing that you're not going to be sued by anyone. So we're going to dig into how to set up land trusts today. And we're also going to talk about generalized asset protection all the way around. Very important topic because this is an approach that I take on all of my cash flowing assets. And I wanted to pass this information on to you as well. Bob Bluhm, what's up, man?
Hey, Jamel, how are you?
Doing great, man. I can't complain.
Good.
I'm excited to have you, man. I'll tell you, man, it's been quite a few months that we've been trying to get this podcast going, but definitely have busy schedules. But I'm happy that we're here today and we're able to make this happen, man. Why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
Well, I'm an attorney living in Dallas, Texas. Grew up in Ohio and got to Dallas and Texas as fast as I could, as they say. And I've been a lawyer for a long time and been setting up thousands and thousands of LLCs and land trusts and limited partnerships and corporations and other kinds of trusts for years and years. And I have a group of attorneys and paralegals and staff called Asset Defense Team. And we help our clients. We help your clients. We help your students. And we set up the right entities. And that's not always the same thing for everybody. It's going to be different depending on who you are, how you're investing, what state you're investing in, what your goals are. So it's all very, very customized, very detailed. And so nothing's cookie cutter by any means. It'd be a lot easier if it were cookie cutter, but it's not. And so that's what we do. And we're happy to serve people. And that's why we're here. Just want to help.
Perfect, man. Now I'll tell you guys, I personally used Bob, what was it, last year?
Yep.
Or was it it was last year. And he set up 3 different businesses for me, reconstructed some of my other businesses that I had going on. We changed the name of one of the businesses for personal reasons. And then after that, we're in a better situation now than we were before. And we're actually saving money on some taxes this year as well, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But this is all part of what Bob does. And we're going to dig into how to get this stuff set up the right way. And at the end, if you guys want more information from Bob, definitely we're going to tell you how to contact him at the end in order to be able to get yourself situated the right way. Another thing I wanted to mention is as far as land trusts are concerned, we actually have a book. It's a PDF from Bob in our hybrid wholesaling course. It's in module 5 with all of the bonuses. You guys, we're going to put an additional webinar in there as well. So if you have the hybrid wholesaling training program, definitely go into module 5, download that book. It'll tell you exactly how to set up an LLC, how to set up a land trust rather. And then Bob also provides you with the documents to do it as well. And then if you want to dig even further, his team can set it up for you. We're going to invite you to a webinar to be able to find out more information about that. But let's provide some great value for you guys right now. So even if you decided not to move forward with anything else, at least you'll have a generalized idea of how to get this stuff done. So you've been doing this for a long time, Bob.
Yes,
how
sir.
many years have you been an attorney?
Been an attorney for 30 plus years, and going to do it for a lot longer as well. So it's been great, and love what we do. Hey, Jamel, you mentioned one thing, and I'd like to expand a little bit about it.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, we took some existing entities that you had and fixed them. And that is another very, very important thing. In fact, that's a very large amount of what we do. Often people come to us with existing entities that they set up themselves or somebody set it up, and things change. What was appropriate at one time may not be appropriate now, and so we often amend these entities, fix the entities, provide documentation that they need in order to really be protected. And so we don't just set up brand new entities, we also redo, if you will, or fix existing entities. And so oftentimes we need to move things around and change the structure, because a structure is kind of like your clothes. You don't wear the same clothes when you're 15 that you wore when you were 5. You're going to grow. Right. And your portfolio is going to grow. And so your structure needs to grow with your portfolio.
Exactly. So, and that's a great point, man. I didn't even think about it. I had existing entities and all you did was fix them. Yeah. Right. So I'll be honest, I set up those entities. Well, I probably had somebody set up those entities for me. And then we just saw a better situation that we could get into. And you recommended that we go a different direction. And that's exactly what we did. And we're benefiting from it right now. So if you have an entity that you set up yourself, or if you have an entity that you're not truly benefiting from, definitely talk to Bob and his team. He'll be able to help you out in that regard. So what are some of the obstacles that investors will face if they're not set up the right way, Bob?
Boy, they can be exposed to a lot of liability if they're not set up the right way. The most basic thing is don't ever do any real estate investing in your own personal name. That's just the most basic starting point. Always use some kind of an entity, whether it's a land trust or an LLC or corporation or a limited partnership, because those limit your liability. That's why they're called limited liability companies. So, the problem is if somebody is investing in real estate without an entity, they have unlimited personal liability. And think about that for a minute. That means they could take literally everything you have. So that's a risk that nobody should ever take. And so always use some kind of an entity. And of course, the particular entity is what we would have to determine is right for you in your particular situation.
Because it could be different for everybody. So it doesn't necessarily mean that a land trust is better than an LLC. It just depends on the situation, right?
That's exactly right. And oftentimes we'll use a land trust in combination with an LLC. So it just depends on the state they're investing in and other factors.
Right. So like, just for example, one thing that we do is we'll set up an LLC. We'll set up a trust based on a property address, and then we'll use the LLC as a personal representative of the trust. Right. So that's just one example of what we've been doing, and it works really well for us. But your situation may be different. Those of you listening to this, based on where you're located. So this is where someone like Bob definitely comes into play to help you make the right decisions and to get familiar with how to do this for ultimate protection in your particular area.
Well, you're exactly right. And if I could add something, one of the big benefits of a land trust is that it provides anonymity if you do it the right way. And anonymity is important because if somebody is just kind of looking opportunistically for someone to sue, they know that the case is never going to go to trial. They're never going to have to prove their case. They're going to get a, $40, $50, $60, $100,000 settlement out of somebody. And they're just looking for a deep pocket to sue. Well, they can easily find somebody who owns 10, 15, 20 properties, and they're figuring they got money or they've got assets, and that's a good target.
Yep.
So when we use a land trust, it makes it look like you don't own any properties.
Mm-hmm.
And, they can do asset searches. They can easily find everything you own. And, they don't want to sue someone who's broke because 50% of zero is still zero.
Yep.
And that's what the plaintiff's lawyer is going to take is 50%. And so the plaintiff's lawyer loses interest real fast if there isn't anything to get. And so the land trusts make it look like you don't own anything, even though you've got a really nice portfolio.
So you're basically anonymous.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, if it looks like you have nothing, then they're not going to get anything. Now, let's say they hired an attorney or they wanted to hire an attorney to try and sue you. They would have to come up with a certain amount. I think it's 10 grand or something like that. Based on the attorney, they would have to almost pierce the corporate veil in order to be able to find out who you are, to be able to go after your personal assets, right?
Well, yeah, and that's now once litigation starts. So in a pre-litigation setting, the land trust can really keep you out of litigation, and that's the goal in the first place. We don't want you to get into litigation and then win. Well, yeah, of course we want you to win, but the goal is not to have you exposed to litigation so you can win. The goal is to keep you out of litigation so you can keep investing in real estate and not have to keep looking over your shoulder. So the land trust reduces the likelihood that you're going to get sued if it's done correctly, because it makes it look like you just don't have any assets.
Right. So let's talk about that for a second. Let's talk about the pros and cons of having a land trust or having an LLC. Maybe we'll put the two up against each other. Like you said, sometimes you can use them in combination with each other for maximum benefits. Right. But what's the benefits of using a land trust, and what are some of the cons?
Well, a lot of benefits. Number one is they're very economical because you don't have to pay a state filing fee to the Secretary of State. You don't have to file a tax return for the land trust, and which saves a lot of tax preparation expense. There's no annual renewal fee for a land trust because it doesn't get filed with the Secretary of State in the first place. And you don't have to have a registered agent for the land trust. So those are other additional expenses that you would have with an LLC, but you don't have with a land trust. And so it becomes a really economical type of thing to use. And we recommend one land trust per property because they're very inexpensive as a result. You don't have to set them up, in a costly way.
I was going to ask you, so going back to the filing question. So do you need to file a land trust down at the courthouse, or do you keep that file in your file cabinet?
Yeah, the land trust itself is kind of like a will. You set up a will and it goes in your drawer. You don't file it with the state anywhere. Same thing with a land trust. Now, the trustee is going to go on the title to the property, and the name of the land trust will go on. So, if it's the Main Street Trust, because the property's on Main Street, it's going to be Main Street Trust, Jamel Gibbs, trustee.
Gotcha.
But better yet, not Jamel Gibbs, trustee.
LLC.
How about the XYZ LLC trustee? So now you've really got anonymity. If we say Jamel Gibbs, trustee, now the cat's out of the bag. We know it's Jamel Gibbs. You don't have anonymity. Right. So that's where we want to use an LLC along with the land trust to achieve anonymity.
So if you're purchasing a property, do you ever have to, you obviously have to tell the attorney what trust is going to take title on the property.
Yeah.
But do you need to provide the attorney with those documents as well?
Well, if you're talking about a title company that's going to handle the closing, maybe
or an attorney,
the case, or an attorney, depending on the state. You would provide. Keep in mind they're going to keep it private. They're not going to publish, the documents. So yes, you can provide the land trust to the attorney if they ask for it, or the title company. They typically will. They'll want to see, who is involved. So they draft the closing documents properly.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So I just wanted to make that clear for you guys listening, because this to me is the best way to set up cash flowing assets. Right. So, and to have ultimate, I'm going to say this word wrong, anonymity. But this is what we do. And just like what Bob said, you set up an LLC, we set up a trust, and we use our LLC as the trustee, right? Then we make ourselves beneficiaries of the trust, pretty much, right? Is that a good way to set it up? Making yourself the beneficiary of the trust, by the way?
You raise a great point, and I like to use an LLC as the beneficiary. And the reason is the beneficiary is the one who benefits from the trust. In other words, it's the beneficiary who receives the rents, can raise the rents, has total control over the property. The only thing the trustee does is holds legal title.
The decision.
Yeah, they carry out the decisions really made by the beneficiary, because the beneficiary's got total control. So the beneficiary holds what's called the beneficial interest. But here's the problem. The beneficial interest is not real property, it's personal property. And that means it's easily transferable. Now, that's a plus and a minus. It means you can sell the beneficial interest if you want to, and you're not having to go through an appraisal and a survey and all the stuff you do with a closing, normal closing. You're not selling real estate. You're selling
the interest.
Property. Yeah,
that's right.
But
that's the way we actually assign REOs that way. We use land trust sometimes, and we assign the beneficiary rights in a trust over to whoever wants to buy it.
Exactly. And that's a great way to do it. The downside to personally being the beneficiary is if there's a lawsuit against you and a judgment against you, they can take the beneficial interest from you.
Gotcha.
It means they're going to step into your shoes, and they now get the rents, and they essentially have control of the property. So I like to use an LLC as the beneficiary, because now if there's a judgment against Jamel's not the beneficiary. The XYZ LLC owned by Jamel is the beneficiary.
Got you. So
and that protects your beneficial interest.
Let me get this right. So we have the LLC, then we have the trust, then we have the LLC who is going to be a trustee. Then we're going to have an additional LLC that's going to be the beneficiary.
Yeah. Now here's the good news. Once you get the trustee LLC set up and the beneficiary LLC set up, you can use those over and over again with as many land trusts as you want. So you can have loads of, you can have the Main Street Trust, the Elm Street Trust, the Maple Street Trust, and it's all the same trustee LLC, and it's all the same beneficiary LLC. So once you get that basic structure set up, you're good to go with as many land trusts as you want.
Got you, man. Now, what about the cons? Are there any cons?
Sometimes title companies, depending on how sophisticated they are, don't understand land trusts. Some states which require full disclosure, that's their public policy. I'm thinking Nevada, Arizona. Those states are more hostile to land trusts than most other states. Most states, land trusts are absolutely accepted, but every now and then you're going to run into a title company that says, gee, I don't know, we've never seen this before. It's a little over our heads. And then you have to do something else. You have to, you still use the land trust, but you end up transferring title into the land trust after you close.
Quit claim.
Yeah.
Right.
Quit claim.
So for example, I do that as well. So we might purchase under an LLC, or we might refi cash out under an LLC. And then because the lender wants it under an LLC at the time of closing, we might end up quit claiming over into a trust after the fact in order to do what we want. And that's, you could actually do that with your own home as well. I believe it's called the Germain, what is it called?
It's the Garn-St-Germain Act.
Garn-St-Germain Act, right? Yep. So you can do it with your own personal home, and your loan, if you have, let's say a mortgage, it won't be called due. The due on sale clause is invalid at that point because it's legal for you to transfer your personal residence into a trust for privacy purposes.
That's correct. Right.
So how do our listeners go about, let's provide a step-by-step process on how to set up a land trust.
Well, first of all, you want to have the property in mind. You've got a contract on a property. You've probably had the inspection report, and you've decided you're going to close. All the contingencies are passed. And so you're going to close on this property. That's the point at which we want to get the land trust going. We want to already have an LLC trustee. We want to have an LLC beneficiary ready to go because those take time. Especially with COVID and short staffs, in Secretary of State's office, they are way backed up. Florida is sitting on 30,000 LLC applications that they haven't even processed. It's horrible. Texas too. Texas is way behind. A lot of states are. So we want to get those LLCs set up way ahead of time. But then the land trust itself, we will start drafting when you're going to close. And we're going to take the name, the street name of the property. Now, we're not going to put land into the name of it, land trust. We're just going to call it a trust. Right. So the Main Street Trust, the Elm Street Trust, maybe the Stall Drive Trust, whatever it may be. We're just going to use that as the name of the trust. The reason is in some states, a land trust means an environmental conservation trust where you're putting land out of reach of development. So we don't want to confuse the two. We're just going to call it a trust. All right. Which it is. Right. All right. So the attorneys will draft the trust, or if somebody wants to try their hand at it, we're going to have, you can draft the trust. Once we have the trust document, that we will name in the trust document the trustee LLC as the trustee, the beneficiary LLC as the beneficiary, and at that point you're basically ready to close. You've got the trust set up. You've got your trustee, your beneficiary, and you're going to be the grantor because the title is going to be coming from you basically, and you're now good to go with your land trust. So it's not a difficult process to establish the land trust.
So you want to have the LLCs, just so I'm clear, you want to have the LLCs, at least two of them, set up beforehand.
Yeah.
And when you're ready to purchase the property or make an offer, you just let whoever the homeowner or attorney or whatever the case may be know that you're going to put this particular trust in as the owner. You're going to put that trust on title as owner of the property. Then you're going to turn around and take one of your LLCs and make it the trustee, and the other LLC is going to be the beneficiary of the trust.
And that is done in the drafting of the trust. You're going to, when you're drafting the trust, you're going to name who's the trustee, such and such LLC. Who's the beneficiary, such and such other LLC.
Gotcha.
So
it really is an easy process. I think people overcomplicate it, make it more difficult than what it really is. Mm-hmm. But I really wanted to provide our listeners with at least a generalized idea of how it works. And to be honest, everybody should be doing this. So with that being said, let's just say our listeners wanted to get more information on how this actually works. I've already mentioned it on the podcast earlier that if you have my hybrid wholesaling training program, check out the bonus section, module 5, and you'll be able to download that information from Bob. But we're going to have a webinar coming up that we're going to install into module 5 as an invitation for you guys to get more information on how to set that up as well. Definitely hop on that webinar. And then if you decide to use Bob and his team to set up your stuff, which I highly recommend, I use them myself. You can make that decision at that point. But how can our listeners, if they wanted more information from you, or they wanted to at least, I know you have a website, you have some stuff that they can look at. How should they go about getting in contact with you?
Sure. Best thing to do is go to assetdefenseteam.com, assetdefenseteam.com. And there you can just fill out a little form. We'll get in touch with you and be happy to reach out.
Cool, man. So just to touch on asset defense a little bit, assetdefenseteam.com.
Yeah.
I'm going to link that in the description box for you. So if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure that you check out the description box right below this video. If you're listening to it on the podcast, any major platform is going to be in the show notes for you as well. Let's talk about asset defense. What is asset defense?
It's asset protection and effectively protecting assets you either now have or assets you hope to have even in the future. Because sometimes people will think, well, I'm just starting out. I don't have anything to lose. What the heck? I'm just going to do this without an LLC. And the problem is when you're just starting out, that's when you're going to make the most mistakes. They need a great coach like you in the first place. They absolutely need a coach. Absolutely. Because, you can either make all the mistakes yourself or learn from someone who knows how to keep you from making the mistakes.
And who made all the mistakes as well.
That's right. So learn from a coach. That shortens your time to success. But if, people will think, I don't have anything to lose. That's not true, because if someone gets sued and a judgment taken against them, even when they're just starting out, let's say it's a $100,000 judgment, that's going to stay in effect. And as you get your first $100,000 of assets, they can be seized and attached to pay that judgment, even though it's 10 years down the road. So you're starting out in a big hole that you dug for yourself because you didn't get yourself protected. So don't be thinking, I don't have any assets, I don't need asset protection. Wrong. So we want to make sure that we're protected. So the way it works is this. If you get sued and a judgment against you and you have your assets in an LLC, they can only take what you own, and you don't own the assets. The LLC owns the assets. So your rental properties are protected by the LLC. Yeah. Very good liability protection. They get what is called a charging order, which means they don't get any assets. If we draft the documents correctly, which we always do, they're not going to get any income from you. And even though they might have gotten a $100,000 judgment and they didn't get the $100,000, they're going to get a tax bill on the $100,000 you never gave them.
Wow.
And that is the best of all.
Really, they're going to lose, not you.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's a real switch around. And so lawyers, plaintiffs' lawyers understand this, and they're much more reluctant to go after someone who's well structured. And it's kind of like, just common sense. Jamel, when we were all in elementary school, on the playground, they weren't picking on the big kid.
Right.
They were picking on the poor little defenseless kid. And you don't want to be that poor little defenseless kid. You want to have a really good defense.
Right.
Yeah.
So quick question, man. Let's say someone has judgments against their personal residence and they want to switch into a land trust. Would they have to pay that judgment off before they switch it over?
Yeah, that's a tough one, because if the judgment already exists, it's really tough to protect once the judgment is issued.
Yep.
If not impossible.
That's just what I figured. So I just wanted to, I'm just asking some random questions at this point, because I know some people are going to ask some of these questions. So I think that by me asking these questions, and if you guys have any questions that we missed, we'll be happy to join you guys on another video, or maybe even do it live and answer some of those questions. So make sure you leave a comment in the comment section if you're watching this on YouTube. Ask whatever questions you have in regards to asset protection, land trust, or LLC setup. And we will definitely create more content for you guys to be able to benefit from this. And again, go to assetdefenseteam.com. Check Bob and his team out. They're fantastic. And, again, I'm not only preaching this, I'm also a client as well. Right. So I actually use Bob and his team, and I can tell you by far they're the best in the business. They don't only work with me. They work with a lot of the top real estate investors in the country. And I'm sure everybody, if you're one of the top in the country, you're listening to this, you know exactly who Bob is. He's also a part of the mastermind that I'm a part of. And I see him. Matter of fact, I shot a video with Bob. He was actually in it. I'll be sure to link it up in the cards for you. He had a short snippet, but I wanted to get him in there. Phenomenal business. Definitely on this. Look, 30 plus years in the business, guys. You know what I mean? How can you not know what you need to know at that point, and how to take advantage and be able to help people at the same time? So assetdefenseteam.com. Make sure you're using land trusts in your business. Make sure you're also setting up your LLCs in advance. A great question that comes up a lot, Bob, is should I set up an LLC before I start looking for houses? What do you think about that?
Yes, I think you should. And the reason, well, let me put it this way. If you know what state you're going to be investing in, then definitely set up the LLC ahead of time. Now, if you're a person who says, well, I'm going to invest maybe here or there or wherever I find the deal, then hold off because it's state specific. The LLC has to be set up in the state where the property is located. Mm-hmm. So, if you're firm, I'm investing in North Carolina, then let's set up a North Carolina LLC before you start looking for properties and you're all ready to go.
Got you. So, I mean, there's a couple of, I want to say misconceptions, probably not a misconception, but there's a lot of people going around saying, hey, let's set up in Delaware. Let's set up in Nevada. Let's set up in Wyoming. If you set up in Wyoming, can you still purchase using that LLC in a different state?
It depends. And so if you are doing wholesaling or even possibly minor flips, then I think you can get away with using a Wyoming LLC. Now, that's not the completely legally correct answer, but look, it's the practical answer.
Right.
If you're going to do wholesaling, then you're just, you're selling paper. You're selling the contract.
That's right. Now, buy and hold, you want
very different. Mm-hmm. Yeah, very, very different for buy and hold. And by the way, I want to mention one thing. We've talked about land trusts. If somebody's flipping or doing wholesale deals, they don't need land trusts. That's for buy and hold properties.
Right. Unless you're doing REOs.
Yeah, there you go. So that's a key distinction. So there are different structures for wholesalers and flippers versus buy and hold investors.
Right.
And so the taxes are different. The tax elections are different. An LLC can be taxed one of 4 different ways, and it's going to be taxed a certain way for flipping and wholesaling and a different way for buy and hold.
Do you recommend having an LLC to wholesale and flip or wholesale and fix and flip?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. By all means.
Yep.
Yeah. Because, wholesalers get sued.
Yep.
Fix and flippers, get sued.
Yep.
Yeah.
And plus a lot of the lenders, especially if you're doing fix and flip, for example, if you go to hard money lender, for example, most of them don't want to lend to you personally. They want to lend to your business.
That's
so you definitely want to.
Yeah, that means an LLC.
That's right.
And here's the other thing. You mentioned, should somebody just starting out get an LLC? And the answer is yes, because you want to be taken seriously. Right. You're going to be much more professional. You're going to be much more confident. And the other real estate professionals you're going to be dealing with are going to expect to see someone using an LLC. If they don't, they're going to put you in a different category. I'll get to them when I can. I'm going to deal with the real investors.
That's right. And to be honest, even in my coaching program, the first thing we do is we get your LLC set up, start building up business credit before we ever look at marketing for real estate and stuff like that. We want to get you established, strong foundation, then we build up from there. And that's just something I learned over the years. Before I was more gun-ho, let's just find the deals. We'll worry about setting up an LLC. But after learning and after coaching so many people over the years, we decided to flip it. And we found that this process works a lot better for everyone because you'll have an established business right off the bat. So this has been a great podcast, man. I really appreciate you taking the time out to join us today, Bob.
You bet, Jamel. Great being with you. And I want to wish all your students great success.
Thanks, man. Now, look, before you go, a lot of top real estate investors, top entrepreneurs in general read. What are you currently reading?
I'm reading, let's see, Profit First for Real Estate Investors. That's a new book out.
I actually had him on my podcast a couple months ago.
David Richter on?
Yep.
Yeah, very, very good book. I recommend it to everybody. Another one is Who, Not How. That's a good book. It says you don't need to know everything. Just find the right person who does.
Yep.
And, so that's you. They go find a great real estate coach, someone who knows the game, knows how to do it. That's why they need you.
Appreciate it, man. Yeah, I had Mike McCallowicz on. I'll link his Profit First card up in the cards on top of this video. If you're watching this on YouTube, Mike is a great guy, man. Other than that, man, I appreciate you once again. Any last words for our listeners who are looking to get their business going?
Well, decide on what you're going to do with your coach, your real estate coach. Are you going to start out wholesaling? A lot of people do, so they can, they don't have enough money, so they want to wholesale, get some money, so they can start maybe stepping up the ladder to flipping. They make a little bit more money flipping. And ultimately, the goal is they want to get into buy and hold properties because that's where your real wealth that's where your real wealth grows. So whatever phase you're in, use the right kind of LLC, use the right kind of entity. It may not be an LLC, depending on who you are and what you're doing. But all LLCs are not the same. There are 25 different types of LLCs. Mm-hmm. And so the key is you got to get the right structure for you in your particular situation. So everybody's different. Every structure is going to be a little bit different as well.
Guys, couldn't have said it better myself. Bob Bluhm, assetdefenseteam.com. Check out the links in the description box. Be sure to get set up the right way before you start making money. If you're brand new, which most of you are, you need to get set up. If you're already doing business, I've been in business for 20 years. I literally just had all of my businesses restructured last year. So that goes to show you it's never too late to restructure your personal situation in order to be able to benefit you and your business moving forward. But you got to be surrounded by the right people who know exactly how to do it. And Bob and his team are the best in the business. And I'm not just saying that. I mean that, and I hope that you guys can discover that for yourselves as well. AssetDefenseTeam.com. Check them out. I appreciate you, my friend, and looking forward to having you again in the very near future. I'm going to see you. No problem, brother. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Take care.